Welcome back to Educated Kids learning sessions, and we'll continue our learning on one of the major skill, which is social and emotional skill. And in the series of social and emotional skill, we have completed the positive social skills that the child needs to acquire those skills in order to make herself or himself quite acquainted and quite effective in the society. And we have also completed 2 rounds of problem behavior, and today is the second round. In fact, under problem behavior there are 5 segments, and each segment deals with a specific issues that a child may develop while the child grows. So we'll be identifying them and we'll be dealing with them effectively to ensure that the child doesn't continue with those negative skills or problem behavioral issues. And in the first one, we have completed 11 individual skills under that problem behavior. And today we are going to talk about the second component of problem behavior. And the second component deals with the attention problem or overactive. That is one of the areas of late. This kind of behavior is found to be very common among kids. Therefore, it becomes very important for the teachers and parents to know what exactly we mean by the attention problem or overactive. If you recall some of the recent research or recent observation across globe among children, the overall attention towards a particular thing has been declining gradually. 10 years back, on an average, the average attention span on a particular subject was somewhere around 12 to 15 seconds. And over last few years, it has declined to less than 8 seconds that an attention child holds the attention on a particular subject. So when the attention towards a particular subject is reduced, the chances of gaining knowledge, the chances of gaining some kind of skill in that particular area is also getting declined. Fortunately, if our preschool is strong enough to identify those things in right time, then we can create necessary changes and we can start improving the attention span on a particular subject in our kids. So under this attention problem, which is the second component of problem behavior in our series, we'll be dealing with 8 problem behaviors under this attention problem, so that we are geared up with the skills so that we can adapt them in the preschools or same in our house. And to know that when we talk about social and emotional skill, again I am bringing this very basic theory of why we are so much concerned about the child skill between 2 to 6 years of age. As we know that if some of the behavioral things in the child is not corrected below 4 or 5 years of age, then they become a habitual behavior. For the child, that becomes the normal behavior. And after 5 or 6 years, it becomes next to impossible to make changes or make amendment in those behavioral patterns. So if we look to the habitual way of behavior, what happens from the birth or from first year onwards, this grows on, and by the time child is reaching 3 or 4 years, they are the peak to make the amendment or whatever behavior child holds at that age of 4 to 5 years. Most likely the child will continue with that behavior for rest of the life. Therefore, it is very, very important we have to identify them. If we find some problem is there in that behavioral pattern, and it is becoming very easy to make amendments in that age. Therefore, identification is very important, because without identification, making modification will be next to impossible. So this theory remains there for all the children. Therefore, preschool education becomes very important because teachers are trained to identify those changes in the behavioral pattern. Now, what we are going to do, we will be talking about 8 problem behaviors under this second component of problem behavior, which is attention problem or overactive. And once we understand these 8 specific behavioral issues related to attention problem or overactive, then we also discuss how we are going to manage them. But this session and this exercise, what we are going to do under this attention problem and overactive, we'll be discussing about problems in specific. We'll also discuss about a measuring, how we'll be measuring them, and how we'll make amendments. What are the ways we'll be making amendments in our children? That also we'll be discussing. Now, what are those 8 subcomponents under this attention problem? Let's have a look. Number 1 is the child acts impulsively without thinking. When thinking comes, we have also discussed a lot of things under cognitive development. When a child behaves without understanding surrounding, without understanding how and why people will be affected for that, then child doesn't have any understanding on that. Then it becomes a kind of absolute impulsive behavior, and those behaviors is also a part of attention problem or overactive. This one also will deal very, very specifically and very systematically on this issue. Second one in this series deals with the child makes noise that annoy others. Social skill is something that we have to deal with the society as a whole. And society starts with the family. So society starts with a group of people of your close proximity. So when child makes noise without understanding how it affects others, that also categorized under this attention problem or overactiveness of the child. This is the second component under this. Third one, we'll be discussing about the problem behavior which deals with child takes things away from other children. Sometimes we parents are not giving importance to this kind of behavioral problem, but if this behavior pattern remains, then it can lead to disaster in future, and the social skill of the child will be compromised to a greater extent. So if we identify that a child unnecessarily takes away things from other children, then it's a big problem. We have to identify that, and accordingly we have to deal with that. Fourth one is that the child has difficulty concentrating or staying on task. So this is the fourth component of attention or overactive problem. So concentration, maintaining concentration, staying on a task for quite a significant amount of time is what is expected when we deal with the skill of a child. If that kind of things are observed when the child is not able to concentrate on a particular task or particular subject, then we have to work with the child on the spot itself. Fifth one, we'll be talking about the child disobeys rules. As a social pattern, we are bounded by few rules, whether it's a rule at home, whether rule at school, whether rule at society at large. When the child defies, when a child disobeys those rules, that means child is not in sync with social behavioral pattern. We have to change that. We have to make sure child is absolutely syncing with that. Then sixth one talks about the overly active, unable to sit still. If the child is not keeping quiet for at least some period of time, and child is just moving here and there, and that behavior is something which is not desired when the child is growing and in the preschool years. We'll be dealing with that. Child is restless and fidgety. Sometimes, most of the time, we ignore this kind of symptoms of a child, and in our skill learning sessions. We'll have to identify, we have to have some techniques through which we can identify if the child is restless and showing symptoms of that. So we'll be dealing with that. And the last one will be dealing with under this attention problem or overactiveness of the child is that child disrupts ongoing activities. And this is also a kind of overactive. Either the activity is going, the teacher has not announced yet the results, and it's not known what's going to happen by the game or by the activity itself, but child, some in between child disrupts and child jumps into the foray and making completely a kind of disrupt in the whole process. If that is the thing, then we have to be very, very careful, and we have to make changes in the child if either one of these 8 things are present in the child. So that's what we are going to deal under this component 2 of problem behavior, which is dealing with attention problem or overactiveness. Now, once we have these 8 things in place, we have few checkpoints we'll have to do, because we have once we just look to these 8 things and we evaluate a particular child under these 8 things of this component, we have an evaluation outcome. If child is never ever displaying this kind of behavioral pattern, we have to give a score of 0, because that's what is expected and desired, that child should be absolutely absent in either of these 8 things that we have already discussed. If the child is rarely displaying this kind of behavioral pattern, we have to give a score of 1. And if the child is sometimes little bit more than rarely, but sometimes showing this kind of behavioral pattern, we have to give a score of 2. And if the child is often displaying either one of these 8 behavioral pattern that we have discussed, we have to give a score of 3. So going further, all the Adiveret Kids pedagogy or Adiveret Kids curriculum will be having these 8 things in place, and we have to evaluate the child at least 2 times in a year, in the mid of the year and by the end of the year, and we have to give the scoring to the child's behavioral pattern and see that how the child is positioned as far as the attention problem and overactiveness is concerned. Once we assign this scores to a particular evaluation or particular behavioral pattern, we'll be coming out to a score, and the thumb rule is that the lesser the score, the better is the outcome. Meaning, if child is often showing this behavior, the score is bound to be high. If the score is high, then the child's behavioral pattern as far as the attention problem is concerned, that is really a matter of concern to the parents and teachers. We have to work on that. On the other hand, if the child's score is very, very low or very close to 0, then we as parents and teachers must be happy that our child is absolutely fantastic as far as the attention problem is concerned, and child will be doing absolutely great things in the academic performance in the future, because all the attention that's required to be focused on, child is having all these things in place. Bigger the score, we have to be concerned, we have to change a lot in our child. Lesser the score as far as the problem behavior is concerned, we should be happy. That's the thumb rule, we keep it in mind. Now, as we know that we have 2 categories of children in the preschool year. One category is between 2 to 4 years, which are the playgroup and nursery. So they will be considered on evaluation category 1. And second category is the kindergarten children, that includes both lower kindergarten and upper kindergarten. And for them, the category will be different. So for them, we'll be having a evaluation category number 2. So we'll do the scoring, and the scoring will be having 2 broad categories. One broad category is for the children who are in these 2 to 4 years of age, which is a combination of playgroup and nursery. Second category will be the kindergarten category, which will be between 4 to 6 years. So they will be in the category 2. And how we are going to give the scores? If the score is between 19 to 24 for the category 1 or for the playgroup and nursery children, then we categorize them as the children of significant problem. If any child between 2 years to 4 years, and based on this scoring system, while we evaluate all the 8 things and the score we get between 9 to 24, then we categorize they are the children of significant problem, and we need to give lots of attention to correct those problem behaviors as far as this attention or overactiveness is concerned. The same for the category 2, which is kindergarten children. If the score is between 18 to 24, we categorize them as the significant problem. And if the score for category 1, that is nursery and playgroup children, is between 15 to 18, then we categorize them as children with moderate problem for this particular category. And for the kindergarten children, if the score is 13 to 17, we categorize those children as children having moderate problem as far as the attention problem is concerned. Now coming to the average problem category, if the score for the playgroup and nursery group is between 4 to 14, we categorize them as the children with average problem. And if the score is 4 to 12 for the kindergarten category, we categorize them as the average problem. And coming to the no problem category, if for the 8 categories or 8 problem behaviors that we are evaluating, if we get a score of 0 to 3 for both the category between children of 2 to 6 years of age, then absolutely the kids do not have any problem when we discuss this attention problem and overactive. Please take it very, very seriously, and these are the things we must evaluate in our children. We have to look out to this problem behavioral pattern in our children. If they get a score what is now visible on your screen, based on that we have to put lots of effort to ensure those problem behaviors are addressed appropriately. Now going further, next week, and you can look out for our next learning session, and in next learning session we'll be discussing with the first problem behavioral pattern, which deals with if the child acts impulsively without thinking. So in this session we are going to discuss a method which is called 4D method, that will give us a technique how we can identify if our child is behaving impulsively without thinking. So if we get sufficient idea how we can identify or look into a particular child if a child is displaying impulsive behavior or not. So that's what we are going to learn in our next session, which will be coming in some point of time. So thank you very much for listening to our learning sessions. I'm sure this particular session will give you a different perspective to deal with your children in a more responsive manner. Thank you very much, and we'll be looking forward to talk to you in our next session in some point of time. Thank you so much.